Most gardeners spend years trying to fix poor soil with bags of fertilizer, compost, and amendments, when the real solution could have been growing the right crop in the first place. The mistake is treating soil problems only after they appear, instead of using plants that actively repair the ground while they grow. When that mistake repeats season after season, beds become compacted, nutrients drain away, and the soil ecosystem slowly weakens. Yet for thousands of years, farmers solved this exact problem with a single crop that could grow on weak, neglected land and still leave the soil richer by the time it was harvested. This is the crop farmers relied on when soil was too poor for almost anything else. One plant that has quietly carried this reputation for centuries is fava bean, sometimes called broad bean. Long before synthetic fertilizers existed, farmers across the Mediterranean, the Middle East, and parts of Asia relied on this crop to revive tired fields. Archaeological records show fava beans being cultivated more than 4,000 years ago, and one reason they survived that long in agriculture is simple. They thrive where other crops struggle. Fava beans tolerate soils that would frustrate most vegetable growers. They grow well in clay, in low fertility ground, and even in soil that has been farmed continuously. The deeper reason lies underground. Like many legumes, fava beans partner with nitrogen-fixing bacteria that live in nodules along the roots. These bacteria capture nitrogen from the air and convert it into forms plants can use. The plant feeds the microbes sugars, and the microbes feed the plant nitrogen. Before going deeper into the practical methods, make sure to subscribe to the email list linked in the description. That list is where detailed soil experiments, growing techniques, and field-tested gardening methods are shared that don't always make it into these videos. The real value of this crop shows up after the harvest. Most gardeners hear about nitrogen fixation, but underestimate how powerful it can be when used correctly. A well-grown fava bean crop can fix anywhere from 100 to 200 pounds of nitrogen per acre over a full season. Translated to a backyard scale, that means a single raised bed planted with fava beans can supply enough nitrogen to support heavy feeders like tomatoes, corn, or brassicas the following season. What makes fava beans especially useful compared to other legumes is the size and depth of their root system. The roots push deep into the soil profile, often reaching 2 to 3 feet in loose garden beds. As those roots grow, they open channels through compacted soil, improving drainage and airflow for the crops that follow. When the plants are eventually cut down and the roots decay underground, those channels remain. Water begins moving through the soil more easily, oxygen reaches deeper layers, and microbial life spreads into areas that were previously stagnant. Most gardeners, honestly, miss the timing that makes this crop so effective. One of the reasons fava beans perform so well as soil builders is their ability to grow during cool seasons, when other crops just sit dormant. In many climates, they can be planted in early spring or even late fall. They germinate in soil temperatures as low as 40 degrees Fahrenheit and continue growing through cool weather that slows down most vegetables. This makes them ideal as a transition crop between major growing seasons. In a typical backyard garden, planting fava beans in early spring allows them to grow for 8 to 10 weeks before summer crops are transplanted. During that short period, they build significant root biomass and begin fixing nitrogen. The plants can then be cut at the soil surface just before flowering if the goal is maximum soil improvement. At that stage, the roots are full of nitrogen nodules and the stems contain soft green material that breaks down quickly. Leaving those roots in place is important. Pulling them out removes the nitrogen that was just captured. The simplest way to use this crop is in raised beds. In a standard raised bed measuring 4 by 8 feet, around 30 to 40 fava bean plants can be grown comfortably. Seeds are usually spaced about 6 inches apart, in rows that run the length of the bed. Germination typically takes 7 to 10 days in cool soil. As the plants grow, they begin forming tall, sturdy stems with clusters of white flowers marked with black spots. Even if the beans themselves aren't harvested, the plant continues building soil fertility throughout this growth period. When the stems reach around 18 inches tall and the first flower buds appear, that's the stage where many gardeners cut the plants down if soil improvement is the goal. The stems can be chopped and dropped directly onto the bed as mulch. Within a few weeks, worms and microbes start breaking the material down. The nitrogen boost becomes obvious with the next crop. Gardeners often notice the effects when the next crop is planted. Beds that previously needed frequent fertilizer suddenly support strong leafy growth without additional feeding. Tomatoes planted after a fava bean cover crop frequently show darker foliage and faster early growth. The difference becomes even clearer in tired soil that previously struggled to grow demanding crops. Instead of pale leaves and slow growth, plants respond as if the soil had been freshly amended. This is one of the reasons traditional farmers rotated legumes through their fields every few years. It wasn't just about feeding the next crop, it was about restoring the biological balance of the soil. The microbial activity triggered by legume roots is often overlooked. Beyond nitrogen, fava beans influence soil life in ways that are less visible but equally important. As the roots grow, they release sugars and organic compounds that feed beneficial microbes. These root exudates stimulate bacterial populations and encourage fungi that help build soil structure. The result is soil that becomes looser, darker, and more crumbly over time. Instead of forming hard clumps or compacted layers, it begins holding moisture more evenly while still draining excess water. In beds where legumes like fava beans are used regularly, the microbial community tends to become more diverse and resilient. That diversity helps suppress certain soil-borne diseases and improves nutrient cycling for future crops. Even hydroponic growers can use this crop to support soil systems. While hydroponic gardening often focuses on mineral nutrients, some growers maintain hybrid systems where living soil beds exist alongside hydroponic setups. In these situations, crops like fava beans can serve as biological support plants. Growing them in soil beds near hydroponic systems allows gardeners to build rich compost and microbial inoculants that can later be introduced into organic hydroponic solutions. The plants themselves may never enter the hydroponic system directly, but they contribute to the biological foundation that supports it. This approach mirrors how many traditional farms operated for centuries. Livestock, compost piles, cover crops, and food production all supported each other in a closed nutrient cycle. The bigger lesson here is that plants can repair soil better than bags of fertilizer. One of the most misleading ideas in modern gardening is the belief that soil health must be purchased in bags. While compost and amendments absolutely have value, plants themselves are often the most powerful soil builders available. Fava beans are just one example, but they illustrate a broader principle. The right crops can capture nutrients from the air, open compacted soil, feed microbial communities, and leave behind organic matter that improves structure year after year. Instead of constantly correcting soil problems with inputs, experienced growers start designing their planting cycles around crops that naturally rebuild fertility. The farmers who understood this thousands of years ago were solving the same problems gardeners face today. The reason this crop has survived 4,000 years of agriculture is not nostalgia or tradition. It's performance. When soil became weak, farmers planted fava beans. When fields needed nitrogen, they planted fava beans. When land had been pushed too hard, they used legumes to restore it. That simple cycle allowed ancient farms to remain productive for generations without synthetic fertilizers. The same principle still works in backyard gardens today. When the soil becomes tired or compacted, growing the right plant can do more for long-term fertility than almost any quick fix. If practical growing knowledge like this is useful in your own garden, make sure you're subscribed to the email list linked in the description, and share this video with another gardener who cares about building soil the right way. The more growers understand how plants can repair the ground beneath them, the easier it becomes to produce healthier harvests year after year.